Marlon Brando, a name that forever altered the course of cinema. With a career that spanned over 5 decades, he became the face of raw emotion and unparalleled talent. But it wasn't just his groundbreaking performances in A Streetcar Named Desire, 1951, On the Waterfront, 1954, and The Godfather, 1972, that cemented his legacy as one of the greatest actors to ever grace the screen. It was his approach to acting, intense, vulnerable, and revolutionary, that left an indelible mark on Hollywood and the art of storytelling. Brando didn't just act, he transformed the craft. He wasn't merely portraying characters, he was becoming them, deeply, authentically. His portrayal of Terry Malloy in On the Waterfront earned him an Academy Award and made the phrase, "I could have been a contender," a part of film history. His iconic role as Vito Corleone in The Godfather defined an era of cinema. And with a single raised eyebrow, he became the most feared mafia boss in film history. But as much as Brando is celebrated for his film roles, his life was as complex and legendary as his career. Behind the iconic roles and unforgettable moments was a man full of contradictions. Revolutionary yet reclusive. A legend who fought against the very system that made him famous. His story is not just one of fame but of rebellion, struggle, and ultimate transformation. In this video, we'll explore the life of Marlon Brando, the rebel who forever changed Hollywood. A man whose career became a legacy of raw emotion, artistic revolution, and personal complexity. Marlon Brando's journey to becoming one of Hollywood's most iconic figures was anything but straightforward. Born on April 3, 1924, in Omaha, Nebraska, Marlon Brando came from a troubled background. His father, a salesman, was an alcoholic, and his mother, a writer, was emotionally distant and often struggled with her own demons. The turbulence in his home life left an indelible mark on Brando, shaping the complexity of his character and influencing his later work. Brando's childhood was far from idyllic. His father's alcoholism and volatile temper created a tense home environment, and his mother's emotional neglect pushed him further into solitude. Marlon found solace in acting, but even this escape wasn't without its challenges. His family moved frequently during his early years, and Brando was often alienated from his peers. The absence of a stable family life and the emotional toll of his early years fueled the restlessness that would define both his personal and professional life. By his teenage years, Brando had developed a reputation as a rebellious youth. He was a troublemaker at school, known for his pranks and defiance. Yet beneath his outward defiance was a young man yearning for recognition, for a way to express his inner turmoil. His deep-seated desire to escape his family's dysfunction and find a sense of belonging led him to the world of acting. In 1943, Brando attended the American Theater Wing in New York City, where he studied under the guidance of famous acting teacher Stella Adler, one of the pioneers of method acting. This marked a pivotal moment in Brando's life. He embraced method acting, a technique that called for actors to immerse themselves fully in their characters by tapping into their own emotions and experiences. This form of acting would become Brando's signature, allowing him to channel his inner pain and vulnerability into his performances with an intensity never before seen on screen. Brando's move to New York would prove to be the catalyst for his career. In 1944, he landed his first major role on Broadway in I Remember Mama, a production that brought him critical acclaim. His talent and raw emotional depth were undeniable, and he quickly became a sought-after actor in the theater world. It was here, in the gritty and challenging world of theater, that Brando honed his craft, developing the intense, immersive style that would later become his trademark on screen. But it was his role in Tennessee Williams' A Streetcar Named Desire, 1947, that would truly mark the beginning of his rise to fame. Brando played the explosive and passionate Stanley Kowalski, a role that defined him as an actor and made him a household name. His portrayal of Kowalski was nothing short of revolutionary. Brando's raw, visceral approach to the character left an indelible mark on the theater world and showcased a new form of masculinity, one that was vulnerable, emotional, and unafraid to express its pain. His performance in A Streetcar Named Desire earned him widespread acclaim and marked his entrance into the world of film. The film adaptation of the play, released in 1951, took Brando's career to new heights. His portrayal of Stanley Kowalski was both electrifying and deeply human. He turned the role into one of the most iconic performances in cinematic history, forever associating his name with the character. After the success of A Streetcar Named Desire, Hollywood came calling, eager to sign Brando to a film contract. Brando's arrival in Hollywood was met with excitement and anticipation. His first major film role, The Men 1950, introduced Brando to a wider audience. While the film was not a major success, Brando's performance was praised for its authenticity and depth. Hollywood quickly recognized Brando's unique acting style, which was a departure from the more traditional, polished performances of the time. Brando's approach was raw, emotional, and deeply immersive. He was not interested in playing the heroic characters typical of Hollywood. Instead, he sought roles that allowed him to explore the darker, more complex facets of human nature. Brando's success in Hollywood was not just about his talent. It was about the way he challenged the norms of the industry. He was outspoken, rebellious, and unafraid to go against the grain. Hollywood had its stars, those who followed the rules, who played the roles that were handed to them, but Brando was different. He was an outsider, a man who didn't fit into the carefully constructed image of what a leading man should be. This sense of rebellion and nonconformity made him both a star and a cultural phenomenon. While Brando had already achieved significant success in the theater and had gained recognition in Hollywood, it was his performance in On the Waterfront, 1954, that would truly solidify his place as one of the greatest actors of all time. Directed by Elia Kazan and written by Bud Schulberg, the film tells the story of Terry Malloy, a former boxer turned dockworker, who struggles with his conscience as he becomes entangled in the corrupt world of labor unions. Brando's portrayal of Terry Malloy was a masterpiece of emotional complexity. His performance was intense, gritty, and profoundly human. The character was a man broken by his past, conflicted by his own sense of morality, and struggling to break free from the toxic environment around him. Brando's ability to channel the pain and anguish of Terry Malloy made the character come alive in a way that was unprecedented in cinema. His now iconic line, "I could have been a contender," became a symbol of the human desire for redemption and the weight of regret. Brando's performance in On the Waterfront earned him his first Academy Award for Best Actor, and it solidified his reputation as a leading man capable of bringing a depth of emotion and complexity to his roles that was unmatched. The film's success catapulted Brando into the stratosphere of Hollywood stardom, and he quickly became one of the most revered actors of his time. Marlon Brando was not only a brilliant actor, but he was also a revolutionary figure in the world of cinema. His commitment to method acting, his refusal to conform to the norms of Hollywood, and his fierce independence made him a symbol of rebellion. He rejected the idea of being a star, in the traditional sense, opting instead to be a true artist, one who was willing to push boundaries, take risks, and explore complex, often dark characters. Brando's commitment to his craft, his ability to dig deep into the human experience, and his willingness to expose his vulnerabilities on screen made him one of the most groundbreaking actors in film history. As he gained more success, Brando's influence only grew. He paved the way for a new generation of actors who sought to challenge the traditional notions of acting and stardom. His performances inspired the likes of Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Marlon Brando's own contemporaries like Jack Nicholson, who would go on to change the way movies were made and acted in the years that followed. But Brando's legacy was not just about his incredible acting talent. It was about his willingness to stand up for what he believed in. He didn't just act in films, he shaped them. He changed Hollywood, making it possible for future actors to embrace a more raw and authentic form of acting. Brando's influence on cinema remains immeasurable to this day. As Marlon Brando became one of the most famous and respected actors in Hollywood, his fame was not just built on his undeniable talent. It was also due to his rebellious spirit, his refusal to conform, and his determination to live life on his own terms. Brando was not simply an actor. He was a symbol of defiance, an enigmatic figure who shook the foundation of Hollywood by rejecting its rules, its superficiality, and its expectations. This chapter explores the complex layers of Brando's personality and career, shedding light on his deep inner conflicts, his commitment to personal authenticity, and his troubled relationship with fame. By the late 1950s, Marlon Brando had solidified his place as a major Hollywood star. His success in films like On the Waterfront, 1954, and The Godfather, 1972, had made him not just an actor but a legend. Yet, the more Brando succeeded, the more he distanced himself from the very system that had made him famous. He rejected the role of the conventional Hollywood star, the persona the public and the studios tried to place upon him. Brando often expressed disdain for the Hollywood machine, the superficial nature of the industry, its exploitation of stars, and the pressure to conform to a predetermined image. While many actors thrived within the system, Brando felt suffocated by it. His increasingly erratic behavior, his refusal to conform to the star image, and his open critiques of Hollywood's corporate structure made him a difficult figure to manage. At a time when stars were expected to smile, wave, and play the game, Brando did just the opposite. His decision to reject his Academy Award nomination for The Godfather in 1973 further exemplified his defiance. Brando refused the honor as a protest against Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans, particularly the portrayal of Native American characters in film. Instead, he sent a Native American activist, Sachin Littlefeather, to decline the award on his behalf. This act of rebellion, while controversial, was in line with Brando's belief that he should use his fame as a platform for speaking out on issues of social justice and human rights. Behind the icon was a man who struggled with loneliness, personal conflicts, and family turmoil. Marlon Brando's relationships were often complex, tumultuous, and publicly scrutinized. Though he had many lovers and was married 3 times, his personal life was far from idyllic. Brando's first marriage to Anna Koshfi in 1957 was a brief and highly publicized affair. The marriage ended in divorce in 1959 amidst accusations of infidelity and other personal issues. Brando's second marriage to actress Movita Castaneda was equally short-lived, lasting only a few years before they too parted ways. These failed marriages were symbolic of Brando's inability to find peace or stability in his personal life. However, his most complicated relationship was with Richard Burton. Not only did Brando develop a close friendship with Burton, but he also found himself drawn into a complex emotional bond with Elizabeth Taylor, Burton's wife at the time. Despite the scandalous nature of their love affair, Brando and Taylor had an enduring connection that persisted throughout their lives. Brando's tumultuous relationship with both Burton and Taylor epitomized his pattern of intense, but often fraught connections with others. Brando also had a difficult relationship with his children, particularly with his son Christian Brando, who became infamous for his involvement in the 1990s murder of his sister's boyfriend. The family dysfunction and the emotional struggles Brando faced with his children added layers to his already complicated and turbulent life. Brando, despite his attempts to connect with and protect his family, was unable to shield his loved ones from the pain and chaos that seemed to follow him throughout his life. As Brando's career continued to evolve, the success of his earlier works began to feel distant. The late 1960s and 1970s saw Brando move away from the iconic roles that had made him famous, choosing more obscure or controversial projects. Films like The Missouri Breaks, 1976, and Last Tango in Paris, 1972, received mixed reviews and failed to replicate the success of his earlier films. Brando's performances became less predictable, and his personal issues started to overshadow his professional achievements. One of Brando's most infamous moments came in the making of Last Tango in Paris, where his behavior on set became erratic, and his performances felt disconnected from the characters he was portraying. The film's infamous scenes of explicit sexual content and emotional manipulation led to public outrage, and Brando's reputation as a difficult actor grew. While Last Tango in Paris was a commercial success, it became emblematic of the disconnect between Brando's early career and the later years, where his personal struggles began to consume him. The pressure of maintaining his place as a top-tier actor in Hollywood, combined with his emotional turmoil and personal battles, began to take a toll on Brando's health. His weight fluctuated dramatically, his self-destructive tendencies became more pronounced, and he withdrew from the public eye for extended periods. Brando, once a dominating force in cinema, found himself overshadowed by younger, more commercially successful actors. In the final decades of Brando's life, he became a more reclusive figure, often retreating to his private estate in Tahiti, a place where he sought solace and peace. While Brando remained largely absent from the public spotlight, his influence on the industry and culture remained profound. In his later years, Brando returned to acting on occasion, taking roles in films like The Freshman, 1990, where his portrayal of the Godfather figure became a self-reflective nod to his earlier role in The Godfather. Brando's final years were marked by a sense of reflection, as he often spoke openly about the mistakes he had made in both his career and his personal life. He admitted to his failings as a father, his struggles with addiction, and his regrets over his inability to maintain long-lasting relationships. Despite his regrets, Brando was at peace with the fact that his legacy was intact. In interviews, he acknowledged his mistakes but also pointed out the groundbreaking changes he had made to the art of acting. Brando's last public appearance came in the early 2000s, when he made a rare appearance at the Academy Awards to accept a posthumous tribute for his contribution to the industry. His health had deteriorated significantly by this point, and Brando passed away on July 1, 2004, at the age of 80. His death marked the end of an era in Hollywood, but his impact would live on for generations. Marlon Brando's influence on Hollywood and the world of acting is immeasurable. He is often credited with changing the very nature of acting in film, paving the way for method actors like Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Jack Nicholson. His willingness to embrace emotional depth, vulnerability, and complexity in his characters broke the mold of traditional acting and ushered in a new era of more raw, authentic performances. Beyond his professional achievements, Brando's legacy is also defined by his personal struggles and rebellion against the Hollywood system. His life was one of contradictions. He was a cultural icon who resisted the very system that made him famous, a man of immense talent who battled personal demons, and a public figure who yearned for privacy and peace. Brando's story is one of profound depth, and his influence continues to be felt in the world of cinema and beyond. Though his later years were marked by personal and professional turmoil, Brando's impact on the film industry remains eternal. His work as Vito Corleone in The Godfather will always be remembered as one of the greatest cinematic performances of all time, and his influence on actors and filmmakers will continue for generations. Marlon Brando's legacy, built on both his triumphs and his struggles, will forever hold a place in the annals of Hollywood history. Marlon Brando's legacy as one of the greatest actors in cinematic history is undeniable. However, his journey was not only defined by his performances, or even his immense contributions to the world of acting. It was also about how he lived his life, his personal struggles, his complex relationships with fame, and his challenges with self-identity. In his later years, Brando became more introspective, reflecting on his life and his career. And it was during these years that his legacy evolved beyond the roles he played on screen. As Brando's career in Hollywood came to a quiet close, he retreated from the spotlight, choosing seclusion over public appearances. In the final decades of his life, he spent most of his time on his private island in Tahiti, where he found solace away from the glaring lights of Hollywood. Brando's decision to withdraw from public life came after years of intense scrutiny and personal turmoil. While many of his contemporaries continued to thrive in Hollywood, Brando's later years were marked by introspection, reclusiveness, and a desire for peace. His seclusion on his island allowed him to reflect on the complexities of fame, life, and the relationships that defined him. Despite his withdrawal from Hollywood, Brando remained a relevant figure in popular culture. His influence on the next generation of actors, directors, and filmmakers continued to grow. Brando's willingness to reject the traditional paths set before him and challenge the status quo became a symbol of independence, making him a beacon of artistic freedom for young artists seeking to break free from the constraints of the Hollywood system. Though Brando had largely stepped away from the film industry, he did make occasional appearances in films during his later years. One of his most notable returns came with his role in The Godfather, 1972, a film that would become a defining moment in cinematic history. Brando's portrayal of the mafia boss Vito Corleone is still considered one of the greatest performances of all time. The role earned him his second Academy Award for Best Actor, solidifying his place as one of the most revered actors in film history. However, Brando's return to the screen was not without its complications. His relationship with Hollywood had become strained, and he continued to resist being part of the traditional system. For Brando, acting was never about fame or glory. It was about the craft, the deep emotional connection with the character, and the artistic expression that came with it. Yet in films like The Freshman, 1990, Brando found a way to reflect on his iconic legacy while still bringing his unique presence to the screen. The film, which was a satire of his famous role in The Godfather, allowed Brando to embrace his past while also commenting on the impact he had made on Hollywood. In his final performances, Brando's health had deteriorated, and his body, once a symbol of masculinity, was now a reflection of the physical toll that his life had taken. His weight had fluctuated, and he had struggled with health problems for many years. Despite these struggles, Brando's immense talent still shone through. He was no longer the young, rebellious actor who dominated the screen in his prime, but his presence remained commanding, and his performances continued to captivate audiences. While Brando's professional life was filled with triumphs, his personal life was equally tumultuous. His complicated relationships with women, his troubled marriages, and his estrangement from some of his children weighed heavily on him in his later years. The most publicized of his family issues was his strained relationship with his son Christian Brando, who was involved in a tragic incident in which he shot and killed his sister's boyfriend in 1990. The family drama only deepened Brando's sense of isolation, and he frequently expressed regret over the inability to connect with his children in a meaningful way. Despite his personal struggles, Brando was known for his deep love for his children, even if that love was often masked by the chaos surrounding his life. Brando's relationship with his children, including his daughter Cheyenne Brando, who also faced tragic circumstances, was complicated by his own sense of guilt and his attempts to provide guidance despite the emotional distance. As Brando aged, he became more reflective about his life, admitting his shortcomings as a father, husband, and public figure. He expressed regret over some of the choices he made, particularly when it came to his relationships with his children. However, in his later years, Brando sought reconciliation. His introspection allowed him to confront the mistakes of his past and come to terms with the impact they had on his family and legacy. Though Brando's family struggles were never fully resolved, his willingness to address them publicly allowed him to leave behind a more complex and authentic legacy. The man who had once rejected the system now sought peace and understanding in his personal life. Marlon Brando passed away on July 1, 2004 at the age of 80, from respiratory failure. His death marked the end of an era in Hollywood. The world had lost a true legend, an actor whose influence had shaped cinema and the way actors approached their craft. His passing was mourned not only by his family and friends, but by the entire entertainment industry, which had witnessed firsthand his remarkable transformation of film acting. In the years following his death, Brando's contributions to cinema continued to be celebrated. He had reshaped acting in a way few had before him. His iconic performances in The Godfather, On the Waterfront, and A Streetcar Named Desire left an indelible mark on Hollywood, influencing generations of actors who followed in his footsteps. Marlon Brando's life was filled with contradictions. He was a man who rejected fame, but was addicted to the very spotlight that he despised. He was a genius who struggled with personal demons, yet his legacy as an actor remains unmatched. Brando's influence will continue to be felt in the world of film, and his work will always serve as a benchmark for future actors. Marlon Brando's life and career were nothing short of legendary. His contributions to film and the world of acting are unrivaled, and his status as a cultural icon remains intact, even decades after his death. He was not only an actor but a revolutionary force who forever altered the landscape of cinema. Through his acting style and his rebellion against the traditional norms of Hollywood, Brando opened the door for a new generation of actors to express themselves with authenticity and raw emotion. The Brando effect. Paving the way for a new era of acting. Brando's approach to acting, particularly his dedication to method acting, has been widely regarded as transformative. He didn't just memorize lines and act out scenes, he lived them. He drew from his own life experiences, emotions, and inner conflicts to breathe life into the characters he portrayed. His technique was grounded in the teachings of Stella Adler and Lee Strasberg, who encouraged actors to fully immerse themselves in their roles and to draw on their personal emotions. Brando's performances set a new standard for actors, making them understand that vulnerability and emotional depth were not just assets but necessities for authentic performances. His groundbreaking portrayal of Stanley Kowalski in A Streetcar Named Desire, 1951, and Terry Malloy in On the Waterfront, 1954, laid the foundation for the intense, method-driven performances that would define Hollywood for decades to come. Brando's influence is felt not only in the actors of his generation, such as James Dean, Al Pacino, and Jack Nicholson, but also in modern performers like Leonardo DiCaprio, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Christian Bale, who have cited Brando as a major influence on their craft. His legacy as a pioneer in method acting lives on in these artists, who continue to push the boundaries of performance in the same way Brando did. One of the most notable aspects of Brando's career is his rebellion against Hollywood and the studio system that made him famous. As he became one of the most celebrated actors in the world, Brando's dissatisfaction with the pressures of fame and the constraints placed on him by the Hollywood system grew. His refusal to conform to the typical mold of the leading man was both an act of defiance and a demonstration of his artistic integrity. Brando's decision to turn down his Academy Award for The Godfather, 1972, in protest against Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans was one of the most memorable and controversial moments in his life. The symbolic act of sending Sachin Littlefeather, a Native American activist, to decline the Oscar on his behalf was Brando's bold statement against the industry's exploitation of indigenous peoples and its failure to reflect the reality of their experiences. This defiance, while divisive, showcased Brando's commitment to using his celebrity status for causes he believed in, even if it meant alienating the very system that had made him a star. Throughout his career, Brando resisted the temptation to conform to the studio system's expectations. He wanted to play roles that challenged him and allowed him to explore complex characters, even if it meant rejecting lucrative offers for more conventional parts. His refusal to abide by Hollywood's rules set him apart from other stars, making him both an outsider and a legend. Brando's defiance had a lasting effect on Hollywood, encouraging future actors and filmmakers to resist traditional formulas and experiment with new ideas, whether through unconventional casting, storytelling, or themes. His anti-Hollywood stance ultimately contributed to the shift in the 1970s toward a more creative and innovative filmmaking landscape, with directors like Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, and Stanley Kubrick leading the charge. While Brando's legacy in cinema is secure, his personal life was filled with contradictions, internal conflict, and emotional turmoil. Behind the mask of the rebellious, talented actor was a man who grappled with profound personal issues, including a troubled relationship with his family, struggles with addiction, and an overwhelming sense of loneliness. Brando's childhood, marked by neglect and emotional distance from his parents, played a pivotal role in shaping his personality. The emotional pain he endured early on, particularly the strain of growing up with an alcoholic father, stayed with him throughout his life. His troubled relationships with women, including multiple marriages and affairs, added to his sense of emotional isolation. Brando was a father to several children, and his relationship with them was often strained. His son, Christian Brando, became infamous after being involved in the 1990 killing of his sister's boyfriend, a tragedy that deeply affected Brando. The emotional toll of his family life left him isolated, and Brando often spoke about the guilt and regret he felt over his failure to provide stability for his children. Despite his success on screen, Brando's personal life was often characterized by a sense of turmoil and emotional discontent. The isolation that came with being a global superstar, combined with his deep-seated insecurities and struggles with addiction, created a complex and often tragic figure. But even in the face of these personal battles, Brando remained a compelling and magnetic presence. His ability to channel his personal pain into his performances is one of the reasons why his acting resonated so deeply with audiences. The vulnerability he displayed on screen was not just a talent, it was a reflection of his internal struggles. In the years following his retirement from major film roles, Marlon Brando lived a relatively quiet and reclusive life. He spent most of his time on his private island in Tahiti, where he enjoyed a simpler existence away from the public eye. The man who once captivated millions with his bold performances and fiery personality now sought solace in the serenity of his island home. Despite his reclusiveness, Brando continued to receive recognition for his work, both during his lifetime and posthumously. In 1999, he was awarded an honorary Academy Award for his contributions to the art of film. The recognition, though late, was a testament to his enduring influence on Hollywood and his status as a true revolutionary in the world of acting. Brando passed away on July 1, 2004 at the age of 80. His death marked the loss of a man who had not only changed the way films were made, but also how actors approached their craft. His passing was met with tributes from across the world, including many of the actors who had been influenced by his work. The legacy of Brando, both as an actor and a symbol of rebellion, lived on through the actors he inspired and the roles he immortalized. Marlon Brando's life and career were a testament to the power of individuality and artistic integrity. He was a man who defied the expectations of Hollywood, who changed the course of acting, and who became a symbol of rebellion and artistic freedom. His ability to channel his own pain into his performances and his commitment to authenticity created some of the most memorable characters in cinematic history. While his personal life was marked by struggle, conflict, and loss, Brando's contributions to cinema will never be forgotten. He reshaped the role of the actor in Hollywood and inspired generations of performers to embrace emotional vulnerability and reject the limitations placed on them by the system. His legacy lives on in the work of every actor who dares to break from tradition and explore the depths of human emotion. Marlon Brando may have been a man of contradictions, but he will forever be remembered as one of the greatest actors of all time. His performances in films like The Godfather, On the Waterfront, and A Streetcar Named Desire remain masterpieces of cinema, and his influence continues to shape the world of acting for generations to come. Brando's life and career were as complex as the characters he portrayed, and his legacy of passion, rebellion, and artistic integrity will endure for as long as cinema exists.